Dion and Joanie, welcome. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Thanks for asking. How are you?
Doing okay. I'm a
Good.
little worked up. It's been a busy day.
We know that feeling.
You guys just came back from vacation, did you not? I'm a little jealous.
We did a wonderful vacation
It
and a
was fun.
family
Nice.
fun.
How long were you guys out there?
We were gone for a week.
A week. Dude,
Mhm.
that's so nice. Where did you guys end up going?
So we went to Aruba.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
Jealous.
Yes, beautiful beaches, beautiful water, warm temperatures, sunshine, very friendly
Dang.
Everything we're
people.
not having in Wisconsin right now.
It's nice today.
Yeah,
That's
today
good.
it is nice.
Today it's
Yeah.
nice. It's not Aruba
Today
nice.
it's spring. Tomorrow will be winter.
It's nice in Wisconsin.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Exactly.
Ooh.
Wouldn't
N-
live any other place though.
Now, Doc, how do we know Dion and Joanie?
So I mean, I've known Dion and Joanie forever. I mean, I met them in 5th grade when I became friends with their daughter Emily,
Yeah.
and we are like the best of friends. And I would always go to their house, and they have a special place in my heart. Like even though me and Emily were not like close anymore, like whenever I see them, it's like, oh hey, like I know you, and it's like we can catch up right where we left off,
Yeah.
and it's like time didn't happen.
Now, Dion, I know you first through Esmerna and Emily. That's kind of that way.
Yeah.
But we have been doing ministry for years. I remember when you were doing
Youth
Youth
in
in
Action.
Action, when that was a huge thing. I remember you wanted to recruit us to try and kind of go help out, things like that.
Mhm.
And we eventually ended up doing that. I still have fond memories of one time we had a basketball tournament. Do you remember that?
I had lots of basketball tournaments
Lots of
before
them.
That's true. That's true.
25 years. So
My bad. That's true.
It wasn't that special.
I guess the time I was there wasn't that special. That he says that's
Oh, most it
hilarious.
was.
you're always special. You have a special place in my heart. You know that, man.
No, absolutely. Now, the reason why we wanted to have you guys on is because, as far as we know, you guys are experts at relationships. And the reason we think that is because we've seen you throughout all these years, these almost 20 years, and yours is a relationship that we would like to emboss or to copy. Let's put it that way. Now, I know that no relationship is perfect, but if there is one that could emulate something similar to that, I would say that yours is a pretty good copy of it. And what's interesting about or one of the things that's interesting about your relationship is that you guys are from different cultures. You know, like Dion, you're African American, and Joni, you're Caucasian, you're white. Now, I imagine that wasn't easy. Like earlier on when you guys have been together. But if we can just start off by like, can you guys talk a little bit more about like what you guys were like, what kind of people you guys were before meeting each other? Let's put it that way. So, like for example, like what made like what who were you that made you want to date somebody outside of your race? I guess is another way to phrase that question.
So I can start again. I never thought about dating outside of my race. It was more along the lines of the type of person I was looking for. Not necessarily did I put a color or a race on what I was looking for. So for me, it wasn't like a double thought or oh, he's African American. I don't think I can, date someone like that. It wasn't like that at all. It was his personality and just the type of person I was looking for that drew me to Dion, not that I was looking necessarily to date outside of my race.
Okay, Dion, what was it like for you?
Well, I never considered race at all. As a matter of fact, I never even thought about dating outside of my race in a very serious relationship. You know,
Hmm.
it just came down to the point. I was raised in the church, in the Adventist church, and I was at a point in my life where I was looking for a wife. and no more girlfriends. And I was at the lowest part of my life, and I prayed to God, and that's how Joan and I had really got together. It was the answer to prayer. We worked together
Wow.
for 10 years in the same building, and
Wow.
we can talk about that later. But just the dating aspect, when I met Joan, she is who she is today. Bubbly.
Mm.
She's the one that socially everyone is attractive to, um, and I wasn't looking at all. So the race wasn't something that I was looking at. I just asked God one specific question: a wife. Excuse me, a wife. I was looking for a wife, and
Mm.
as a matter of fact, that was part of us coming together. Um,
Mm.
I had to ask a lot of questions. It was an interviewing process. I was interviewing. I was literally interviewing, not like going around asking you, what's
Yeah.
what's this, that, or the other about yourself. She came to me, and I interviewed her.
Yes.
I didn't approach her. She
I was
approached
the
me.
pursuer.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Told you, women pursue too.
So, how did you guys meet? Now, did you briefly mention that? Like you said, you just worked in the same building for 10 years?
Yep. So I was a special education teacher in the same building that Dion was a school safety assistant. And
Security.
yep. So so because of the types of students that I worked with, I often had situations in my classroom where I would have to call for security to come into my room. And so Dion and a good friend of ours, Linda, who I believe you all know as well, um, would always come into my room. And so really Dion and I just started out as friends. We weren't even like
Mm.
looking at each other to pursue like a type of relationship other than friendship. And we actually were friends for almost 2 years before we started dating. And so,
Oh,
but
wow.
I was the one who would like come up with reasons why he needed to come down to my classroom. I was the one
Okay.
who, would send a kid to say, "Oh, go get Mr. Dion. I don't think I know how to take care of our fish tank." So I did a little bit of
I love
playing
it.
dumb to get to know him better. And that's how we knew. That's how I knew that he was somebody that I definitely would want to pursue a relationship with beyond a friendship.
And
Right.
what was the dating culture like back then? Was it as kind of open to dating other cultures as it is now, or was it different?
It was right now it's more accepted. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we had challenges within our in our building. We had people that would try to break up our relationship. That
Yeah.
would try to tell things that weren't truthful about me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
we had to learn how to push everybody to the side and deal with the facts that if we're going to be together, that this is just the beginning of a journey. So we made commitments. We were in it for the commitment. We were committed from the beginning, um, and it worked out. But yeah, it was a very racially segregated area school. It was
Mhm.
predominantly
Wow.
Caucasians there. Back then, they didn't have as
Mm.
many African Americans in the schools working.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
was not majority. Now you go through the our school district, and African
Mhm.
Americans are the majority.
Mhm.
That wasn't so
Mhm.
32 years ago. So
What year was
Wow.
that? Like
1992,
1985?
We've met in
92.
92, September of 1992. So we've known each other for 32 years.
1985. Jeez.
Yeah. Pretty close to 85, believe it or
Nice.
Wow.
not.
That was close.
But I think for a lot of it, because of the people that were trying to discourage, it became a trust issue. And it became a who do I need to trust? Do I need to trust Dion and what he's telling me? Or do I trust the people who are trying to interfere in our relationship and discourage it? And I believe
Mm.
that that was a big reason why our relationship survived at the beginning because we implicitly trusted each other. We didn't trust
Mhm.
everyone trying to come into our relationship. Our relationship was built on the trust between the two of us, and it was the two of us dealing with the issues that
Right.
people kept trying to bring to us.
Wow.
And even today,
Now,
we'll
when you
see.
guys,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even today, we'll see some of those people, and the first thing they'll say, "Are you still married to Dion?"
Mhm.
You know,
Wow.
you
So they
know,
did not.
Interesting.
Yeah, they set us up for failure, or tried to set us up from failure for day
Mhm.
one. In fact, I mean, a little sidebar, when Dion and I got married, because we decided to purchase a house versus having a large wedding, we just went to the courthouse and got married. And we didn't tell any of our coworkers until after we got married. And we told everybody, and the first thing they said is, "Well, why did you do that? That wasn't a good decision." So right away, even through friendship, through dating,
Wow.
through the start
Wow.
of our marriage, they were constantly being discouraging and it's not going to last. And just so we dealt with a lot of negativity in our relationship, not just at work,
Yeah.
in our families as well.
mhm.
So it was a lot of negativity the entire point of our relationship.
They counted us out. They said it wouldn't last.
Hmm.
Did you
Mm,
experience that
Huh?
in the church too?
I'm sure there was some in the church. I remember when we first entered the church, the culture was different. There was people that gave us looks, not everyone,
Mm.
but we
Mm.
we had some looks.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, we weren't even accepted at a church. And
Wow.
wow.
as the old saying, we kept it moving
Hmm.
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
it was about the needs of our family, and we weren't going anywhere. Like I said, the commitment was from the beginning. It was answer to prayer. God was in the midst of it, and man, we wouldn't be here today had it not. We still have those relationships. We do devotion every day, morning and evening. So God is
Mm.
in the midst of our marriage, and regardless of the culture, the climate, like when the stuff was going on with all of the racial riots and all of that during COVID, we were right here. Yeah, we were looking out the window
Mhm.
saying, hey, are we going to have to face this thing next? Is that going to come into our living room? Are we going to have to go and,
Mhm.
deal with these type of situations? So, but we always
Whoa.
have kept God, supreme.
Well, and I think too, at the beginning of our relationship, neither one of us were in church.
Right. That's true.
I was not raised
Mhm.
as an Adventist, so I did not even know what being an Adventist was. So we not only are different racial backgrounds, we were different religious backgrounds when we first came together, and so
Interesting.
um, we did not have the spiritual relationship between each other and with God that we have now when we first started dating, but clearly God was in our relationship. We just didn't recognize it at the time because there's no way we would have gotten to where we are today if God had not been leading us in our relationship with each other and with our family.
Makes
Dang.
sense.
What did your families think about each other?
About each
It's like
other.
when you first introduced Joni and then Joni when you first introduced Dion. What was that like? What did they think about
Um,
it?
so for me, it was not accepted at all. In fact, my parents had met Dion, but actually, truth be told, my parents didn't know that Dion and I were married for almost probably 6 months into our marriage because it was not
Wow.
accepted.
Wow.
Actually, it might have been longer. I was just pregnant with Emily, so I got pregnant with Emily about a year after we got married, year and a half. It was not accepted at all. To this day, my mother every once in a while will still throw out little jabs here and there about our marriage.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, don't get I mean, it has improved greatly, I think, or as far as like on my side of the family, but it was not accepted. And there are still times where things are not accepted. We're an interracial family, we are a blended family. So, we have a lot of stuff going on in our family that just was not accepted by my family. Definitely
Hmm.
now. But it took, I would say, the big acceptance probably just happened recently within like the last 10 years. And Dion and I have been married
Wow.
Wow.
now for what, how many
Oh
years now?
my goodness.
No,
20,
it'll be 29 years in December. So, I mean,
Wow, praise God.
for a good almost 19 years before it truly um, became more accepted in my family than it was.
And it was God that broke down
Wow.
those racial barriers. It was accepted on Joan's father's deathbed.
Mhm.
As he was dying, Joan didn't know what to do, and I called in and took a leave of absence, and I stayed home with her father, who didn't accept me,
Wow.
and I
Wow.
took care of him. And before he died, he totally accepted me. And as a matter of fact, he asked me to do a prayer at his funeral.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, like I said, God had been in the midst of it, and we fought through a lot of discouraging times. But the thing about it though is that I wasn't discouraged. No,
Mhm.
I wasn't. It's like I knew those things were there because my biggest relationship is with my wife, my bride. And through it all,
Right.
I would always tell her, hey, it's about us spending time together, and this is for the long haul. And we had a lot of stuff. I think it probably hurt her more than it hurt me, because when your family's doing that, and I had it on my side as well. But I'm saying for that, that probably hurt her more than it hurt me, and that it did hurt me. But what can I do? I can't make somebody accept me. But like I said, at the end,
Right.
this man turned and he totally accepted me and embraced me. And as a matter of fact, her mother had told her while he was dying that I was an angel in disguise because of the ministry that was provided for him. It wasn't the color, it wasn't any of that. And he looked at me as a Charlie, as a black man, and the race remarks. And I heard some of those things, but I didn't hold it against him. I
Mm.
understood that's where he's from, and I don't hold that against him. It's a change of mind and mentality, and the racial barriers. So God was working on his heart. And my father comes from the deep south. Well, not deep south, Tennessee. His family came from, and he really didn't say much, but he really didn't accept Joan as a father-in-law should. He loved her at a distance. Because I remember one time we had a family reunion down south. He says, Dion, I would advise you, don't take your white wife down south, because those trees are good for hanging.
Mhm.
Hey yo.
He was really scared for my life, and I didn't take her down south either. I took
Yeah.
at his word, but he loved Joan, but it wasn't like a total acceptance all the way through. But I can see that God was working on
Mm.
his heart too, because that's something that's taught, right? The racial segregation, that stuff
Mhm.
is taught. It's not. There's only one race. It's the human race. God
Yep.
didn't make races. He made Adam and Eve. We all
Mhm.
we all come from that descent. So I don't hold that against them.
No, I feel
Mhm.
you.
But my mother
Now,
accepted Joan. I wouldn't have gotten married had it not been for my mother blessing me. I said, Mom, I have this woman here, and I brought her home. She met her, and then as we started to progress, I says, Mom, what do you think about me getting married? She says, if you love her, I love her.
Mm.
that's nice.
And once I got my mother's blessing, that's all that mattered. I'm a mama's boy.
Mhm.
You know.
Very much so. Mm.
That's
And
awesome.
just kind of wanted to ask you guys a question. So, like, coming from, those backgrounds where, you have families that, maybe had like some prejudices or preconceived notions about the other race. Like, how are you able to like not be a part of that? Like, was it like a process, or was it always like, just in your head that, you weren't gonna be that way? Or, when you met each other, did those like barriers break down? Or, was there just like previous experiences you've had that maybe led you to, where you're able to accept each other regardless of your race?
So, with the experiences of my family and the families that we have blended together, um, I did not allow that to affect the way that I would proceed. Like I said, I prayed for a wife. I didn't pray for a white wife. I didn't pray for a black wife. I didn't pray for a white family. I didn't pray for interracial children. I didn't pray for Indian. I prayed for a wife. So with the wife came all of these, and I was prepared. So when all of the discouraging things happened, I just kept my focus. As a matter of fact, what brought us through is my wife was more spiritual than I was. So when we got back into the church, and the background in which you understand is for portraying, that was a part of helping us through all of the obstacles. We were focused on one mission. I believe when you become married, you are called to a ministry. Marriage and ministry goes together, and it's regardless of the race, because those black kids in those gyms called Joni Mom, those thugs and those gangbangers over on those streets that was the highest street gangs in the city of Milwaukee, called my white wife mother. Okay.
Wow.
So, that helped me focus and get past everything else. If they can do that, it didn't matter what people around me were saying and how they felt about me. Because my focus was always, I have one focus. I know what my purpose is in life. I'm married. This is my wife. We have a purpose.
And I would say for
I love
me
that.
at first, when Dion and I first got married, I did kind of let my family influence me to a certain degree because there were a lot of holidays where we were not together as a family. I would go with my family,
Wow.
he would go with his family, even though we were married. And even when we first started having kids, I went with my family,
Wow.
he went with his. And then typically then we would go to his mother's together because she was very accepting of us. And then it came to a point where finally I was like, I can't do this anymore because I was seeing what it was doing to our household. I was seeing what it was doing to our relationship. And I finally had to say, I told my family, if he can't come with me, I'm not coming because we are one, we are a family. And so if you can't accept that, then Merry Christmas, I'll talk to you later, kind of thing. And so I finally it took me a little while to realize that I can't let that destroy my relationship and my marriage and my family. So I had to kind of learn to, in a sense, put my foot down with my family and
Yeah.
if they're not accepted, if he's not accepted, then I'm not either. And so
Wow.
we finally started doing, holidays and stuff
Together.
together as a family. It was awkward at first, but as time went on, it just became the norm. But for a long time, I wasn't realizing what my choices were doing to our household and to our relationship. And so once I acknowledged that, and I'm 100% certain that was God's leading. Like I said, at the time we were not really. We had beliefs, we had um, values and morals that we still live by, but we were definitely not in the relationship with the Lord that we have now. And so even though we didn't have that kind of relationship at the time, I truly believe it was the Lord's leading in my life to say, what are you doing to your household by making choices?
Wow.
Can I just add to
And then
that I had lost family members, friends, family members,
Yeah.
as a result of my marriage. I had really close family members and friends that I don't hear from even today. And people that know me from
wow.
a kid, I ask, where's that family member is? And I would tell them bluntly, I have no idea. I have no idea how they're
Wow.
doing. So I didn't allow it to affect me. But the friends that I lost, I gained more real friends,
Wow. Yeah.
genuine friends. I have real friends in my life now, and they are Caucasian, they're black, you know, it doesn't have a color, you know, and the relationships are authentic. So, it didn't affect me as far as my focus and my purpose. But yeah, I had to take some losses.
Now, the fact that, cultures are clashing or joining in this case, what were some compromises that you guys had to make when joining together? Now, Joni, you mentioned, the holiday thing. What were some other situations or things that you guys had to compromise each?
I think a big one for us was when we had children and the disciplining of them,
Mm,
because historically, at least in my family, it wasn't like, it was more verbal discipline. It was more time out. It was more, let's think about what we're
Passive.
doing. You know what I'm saying? Versus
mhm.
Yeah.
in his culture, it was more, pop
And
the hands on. Yeah,
I'm a witness.
yeah, you know,
I'm a living
and,
witness.
and
I
yeah,
testify.
and that was a big culture compromise, I think, for me, because he would like want to spank one of the kids, and I'd be like, "You can't do that. Don't do that. That's not right." And, but that also put us as our relationship in a bad situation, because in front of our kids, we're having a discussion about, you can't do that, and that's not right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so there had to be some compromising on both of our ends to come to like a happy medium of, okay, there are times when, yes, they deserve a pop on a hand, or yes, it's a discipline more than go to your room and think about what you did type thing. So that was a big one for us, as far as two different cultures trying to, you know, come together and raise kids.
yeah, but one thing we agreed to when we first got married, can I just say in my interview process, you know what I'm going to say.
Let's hear it.
I had before we started dating, she said we were in a building, which we were for a number of years before. And when I interviewed her, I asked her two specific questions. I asked her, do you believe in God? I was looking for a bride. I prayed to God. And then I said, do you believe in the Bible?
Mm,
And she said yes to both. And I told her that we would always go to the Bible as a counselor and we'll find answers. Now,
Yeah.
that didn't happen when we first got married. But years
Mm.
after we got married, we come into the church. Maybe how many? 98.
98. So we've been married about 3 years.
3 years into our marriage, we come, thanks to her, we came back into the church. And even with the spanking the children, I wanted to know the right way to do it.
Fair
mhm.
enough. Yeah.
You know, so, because of the cultural differences were there, yes, but I always tried to find that balance.
Mm,
And that worked out for us. Although one of the compromises that I would say that I had to make was before I had gotten into the church. Um, I used to just love to hang out. I used to love to party, and Joan was a homebody. I was always, I
Mm.
wanted to have a house full. I wanted to, have the barbecues. I wanted to have the people by. I wanted to
Party house.
the party house. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted, that was me, you know. So I had to compromise of, what do you mean I can't do these type of things anymore? And loud music. I'm driving down the street,
Mm.
I talk loud now because my hearing is bad.
Oh, okay.
I listened to loud music my entire life, So
Yeah.
there were some compromises. So just just the black and white differences that we see in society.
Mhm.
I had to make some compromises, turn the music down, stay
Right.
home, and all these other things. Can I say that we almost got a divorce at
Mm-hmm.
one point? She can tell you about that.
We
It,
sure.
Ouch.
Wow.
yeah, because I,
Yeah.
I wasn't compromising at first. I just wanted to be me. I just wanted, what
Mm.
is wrong with me?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. Didn't you marry me? She's ready to
Unapologetically
drop
black. No, I was
low. She's ready to
Yeah,
drive off.
yeah. He he was still in that partying lifestyle. Emily was probably 2 or 3 months old, and I got to a breaking point where I was like, this is not a marriage. This is not how I want my child. the environment I want her raised in. This is not what I pictured as a family. And
Right.
I said to him, something has to give. And I got the standard, well, I'm not going to change. If you want something to change, you need to change kind of thing. And I said, well, this is the change I'm going to make. And I packed a bag and I got in my car. And I was literally,
Wow.
the car was running and I was literally about to pull off from the curb.
Y'all know James Brown? Please, please.
Yeah, and that was
Oh
that
man.
was a major turning point in our relationship where
Yeah.
he realized that I can't be the one responsible for doing all the compromising. That we both have to equally compromise to make our marriage and our household, work
Right.
and be the positive influence that we needed it to be in our lives and our children's lives and our kids' friends' lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we wouldn't have been able to do the ministry the way we have for as many years as we have, I think, if those compromises didn't happen.
Yeah, because I wasn't a server
Wow.
at all. I wasn't a server. I'll be totally transparent.
Oh wow.
I was just about, take care of me and take care of me. Go to work,
Mm-hmm.
fix the food, and whatever comes later. You know what I'm saying? It was about taking care of me. So those compromises was something that God had given me a new mind. And like she said, it wasn't about any of the differences. It was about just getting real in the marriage, regardless of the color. And I had to learn how to serve and be more of a husband. Be more of the helpmeet, the helpmeet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I'm curious. Uh, After so many years of marriage and whatnot, what are some things you guys have kept that are culturally, let's say, white or culturally black, and what are some things that you guys have blended together to make a
Your own.
like a mixed thing? So one thing I specifically want to know about is the food. What kind of food do you guys usually eat? Is it more like traditional African American? It's more. I mean, I don't know what white food is, burgers and whatnot. But I don't know.
Casserole. No, that's black.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't even know.
Casseroles and pasta and
I
stuff
mean,
like
Joanie
that.
cooks pretty good.
But I mean, but I don't. So it's like I'm curious, what kinds of things have you guys either siloed or kept from each or blended together?
Well, I think the first thing Dion would tell you is my cooking, because in my household growing up, things were kind of bland.
Kinda.
You
Mm.
you know,
I'm not gonna say
seasoning
anything.
you did on your own, because not everybody may like the same amount of salt or the same amount of pepper or the same amount of
Mike's like, I told you.
I resent them.
that was a big one. In his family, things were heavily seasoned and heavily. So today, I think he would still say I still cook bland. I know he would say it because he does still say it. So that's
I mean, your lasagna's pretty good.
huh?
Your lasagna's pretty
Well,
good.
that actually was his mom's recipe. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's something I took from my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law. She actually showed me how to do it. But yeah, I think that is something still I just can't get over. That's something like I can't. My compromise is, okay, if I don't put enough on, then you have to add more when you're eating, kind of thing, because I just can't wrap my head
Okay.
around, putting all these different seasonings into something, because that's just you know what I mean?
I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, so that is a big one still that I think we totally. Unfortunately, that's not like a deal breaker, right? That's not a game changer or something
Right,
that
right.
totally puts a tailspin in our relationship. It's just something that we've learned to, joke about now and work around. He adds more seasoning. I don't add any. We just kind of go our ways on our plate.
That's awesome.
What else? Is there anything else you guys say you do differently or
Differently? There's
yeah? Than traditionally white or traditionally black.
Yeah. Can I just say, when Joan and I first got together and got married, Joan was trying to figure out the differences, and she went and bought a book What's the name of that book?
Wow.
Oh,
Black
Hey,
Talk.
Okay.
The
that's
book was called
education's
Black
key.
Talk.
We're not trying to sell any promotions
No. The
here.
book was called Black Talk.
What was the name of the book?
It was
Black
all
Talk.
about
Black Talk. Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out.
it was all about like ebonics. And like if he says something and I look at him like, what are you talking about? So I was trying to figure it out because even now, today, he'll say something, I'll be like, huh? You know, what? Talking about, or
That English.
in my language, I'll say. So yeah,
That was a big one.
a big one, and we learned to speak each other's languages.
Yeah, so it was.
I think I saw a reel the other
We
day.
learned too that we are a lot different, but so much alike. If that makes sense. Like I don't have any hair, right? But when I had hair, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd put grease in my hair, and she'd wash it off of hers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
it's
sense.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
that's interesting.
yeah. So I kept grease on my shelf, and then she kept shampoo. And I'm like, "Are you going to wash your hair every day?" She says, "Yes, don't you?" And I says, "No,"
No.
because
Dry
we,
out.
Michael, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You never thought about that, did you, Michael?
Well, and that even
I
I
never
never
thought
thought
Say
about
that
about it.
that.
again.
You never thought about that, did you? The differences.
Oh no, I did.
Okay.
I'm the one who didn't. I
yeah,
didn't.
and that
I hadn't
was
thought of that at
a
all.
hard thing for me with like having Emily and Ethan
Yeah.
and trying to learn how to take care of their hair and
Just kind of both.
yeah,
Oh
Oh
yeah, which
wow,
is
yeah.
the
different.
combo
Yep.
package, the combo meal.
Yeah.
So
The combo meal, yeah.
we definitely kept our silos there. I still wash my hair every day.
And I put the oil on my head instead of my hair. So,
Baby oil.
Please tell me it's lavender oil. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll remember this. My day is coming soon, Mr. Lawrence. Well,
Yeah,
I'll have to get the oil soon one day, I'm
yeah.
sure.
Now, I have a question about the kids. Now, raising cross-cultural babies, what were some difficulties there, and how did you guys handle that?
Well, I think like we just said, right? Learning how to, they're both African American and Caucasian, and they took a little bit of each race. So it was um, learning how to, like Emily's hair is more African American and Ethan's is more Caucasian, and it was just learning how to take care of their hair and that kind of stuff. Learning how to make sure that they are exposed to both of their races and understanding their heritage and understanding what it means to come from both types of races and also have an
Yes.
understanding of the differences and how sometimes even now I think both of them would say that there are times where they're not accepted. And
Oh
that
wow.
is a difficult thing for biracial children. And I wouldn't even just say with African American and white. I think with any biracial children, because you don't
Mm-hmm.
identify with just one of the races, you're identifying with both, but yet you aren't necessarily accepted by either one of those races.
right.
And so
Mm.
we used to laugh, and it probably isn't funny. It's probably more sad, but we would tell Ethan, "You're a mix of African American and white," and he'd say, "You're right, I'm mixed up," which we laughed at. You know
Oh.
what
Ooh.
I mean? We laughed at that, but in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of sad because he couldn't identify with African American or white. Um, that even Emily, they're kind of both stuck in a middle somewhere, and they, I don't, they don't really identify with one group or the other.
Even when they try to find someone that looks like them, that's brown skin, you know, um, they aren't like them because they're not interracial or they're from a different, race.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
the culture differences are a challenge for them as well in that perspective. So yeah, we talk, and I talk to my kids about dating and um, you know dealing with the different races and so forth. It's important for them to understand. Uh, I believe that kids, when they come from interracial relationships, that oftentimes they're going to lean towards one or the other, um,
Mm,
Mm.
and maybe in some perspective not accept or reject. Um, I believe that we had saw some of that, and we uh, had to deal with some of those issues as they got older, and they when they got rejected from one race or the other, then they had to understand why. Then they would come to mom and dad. It was the experience that only they would understand, because we don't even understand that. I understand.
It's true.
When I go into the hood, you know, I understand how the brother's going to accept me. They may look at me differently
mhm,
when I bring my white wife in there, but they're gonna say, hey, he's all right. When I talk and open my mouth, they say, hey, he doesn't sound black. He doesn't sound black. You're not
mm,
black enough because of yeah, absolutely. You laugh, but that's a true statement. I'm not black,
It is.
huh?
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm not black
No, I
enough.
said it is a true statement. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So just because, and I'm African American. I'm from the hood. I know some of the guys, my experiences. I'm there. But because I'm out of the hood and I don't live in the hood anymore. Now they look at me a little bit different. So my children,
mm,
they have to understand that where you are doesn't make the difference in you. We have to teach them that they have to understand their purpose in life. That God made the human race. And they have to be confident
mhm,
in when they're growing into relationships that this is what you're looking for when you're dealing with these type of situations. I had to give my kids Black history lessons. I had to give them ancestry,
It
my
sounds
ancestors.
weird to say out loud, but yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have just a question, just to kind of go off of you saying, you weren't feeling like people didn't accept you as like completely black anymore. And I personally like understand where you're coming from. But in your relationship, have you guys like noticed yourself assimilating to each other's cultures in like different areas? Could you like maybe
Yeah.
talk about
I
some
would,
of
I would, I
those?
would love to. I would say this, okay, because I'm going to put this spin on here for you, Michael. You know,
Yeah.
I feel as though, don't get this misunderstood, I'm a very successful person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I feel as though I'm a very
Mm-hmm.
successful person. I go without need. You know, I don't have to. I don't have to. Worry about these a lot of things. God has blessed me physically, mentally, and spiritually, emotionally, and I am in a good place, in a good space. I would not have
Mm-hmm.
gotten to this place had not have been with this wife of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
the blend that I have with her becoming one, and now some of her has rubbed off on me, and some of me have rubbed off on her. We both have gotten promotions in our jobs that equal probably about $75,000 over the years. That's a
Wow.
good
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
income.
Praise
That's
God.
a professional income. That's God in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Okay, that's nothing to
Right.
understand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as me being not black enough, or her, not being white enough, because we had to rub off on each other to get where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's all about the human race, and it's not about the color to me. I need the iron
Mm-hmm.
to sharpen my iron. You know, I was too hard, and then she softened it up. She was too soft,
Mm-hmm.
and I hardened it up. Well, I didn't harden it, but God hardened it up. She needed what I
Mm-hmm.
had to give her, what she needed to be where she's at, and so
Mm-hmm.
forth with me. And that's what marriage is
Mm-hmm.
all about. It's giving and taking. It's blending together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yeah.
What about you, Joni? What's something you think you've instilled into Dion from your culture?
Or
Or he has
vice
instilled
versa.
in yours.
well, well, he just mentioned at work, right? Like
Well,
how he influenced
I
a
think
lot of things
we
in her
we
life.
rubbed off on each other. He definitely has taken a more soft tone on things. Like he was always very hard, very strict, very, you know, this is how we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say militant, but almost to that point where it
I
was,
can see
you know what I mean?
that.
Where it was, It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we're doing.
Mhm.
This is how it's going to be. This is what we're going to do. And that is definitely something that has changed in him.
Yeah.
I don't want to. He's not a softie by any means,
Some think I am.
but he's toned down that whole "this is how it's gonna be, my way, no way," versus me, who was
Hmm.
always like the meek and mild, sat back, didn't speak up. I have learned to speak up more, which I took from him. I've learned to advocate more for myself, for my children, for my
Mhm.
family, which I didn't have prior to knowing Dion. And I always joke with my kids because I'll say something which would be more like a statement you'd expect to come out of Dion and in American culture, and my kids will just laugh at me, and I'll say, "You guys know I'm a reverse Oreo," so that's what I call. I mean,
Oh,
joke.
it's
I
funny.
say I'm a
Yeah.
reverse Oreo.
Or what's the nickname we giving you?
I don't know
What
which
do we
one.
call you? White chocolate.
Yeah.
White
That's
chocolate.
funny. Yeah.
Well, that's so funny that you say that because now both my parents, they're both African, but my dad's from a different country though. He's from Trinidad, and I was telling Hussein Esmerna that like when my dad's family is around and when they all get together, when Trinidadians get together, like the accent gets stronger. I don't know why it is that way, but they just start talking like very hard, like Trinidadian accent. But my mom, who's from Compton, LA, she's from that area, she starts to sound just like them too. It's crazy to me. So now to hear you saying that, it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
it just reminds me of that.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
You
I
don't even
always
realize you're doing it sometimes. It just,
yeah.
yeah.
That's two becoming one.
So
Yep.
exactly,
It is.
exactly.
From your experience, what would you say are some lessons that you could tell, let's say, the younger generation, us, or even some younger kids, that we can keep in mind if we're considering going into an interracial or cross cultural relationship?
Well, I think a big one for us is God has to be first in your relationship. You have to put God first, and then you have to put each other first, and you have to be able to
Hmm.
filter out the outside influences to keep your relationship stable and to keep you focused and to continue to be the one. Because if we continue to let the outside influences that were constantly at us, especially as we first got married, there's no way we'd be together right now. There's no way. We
Hmm.
had to say, all right, God, show us what we need to do to be one with you and one with each other. And we can't listen to what people are trying to tell us about each other or about what they thought our relationship should look like or what they thought we should be doing in our household. We had to take our guidance from God and
Yeah.
each other. And had we not done that, there's no way you'd be having this conversation with us tonight. There's no way.
Wow. What about you, Dion?
I would say I never dreamed of being in an interracial relationship, and I wouldn't tell anybody to do what I did. See, I believe that there's somebody for everyone. You don't know who that person is.
Mhm.
I believe that there's someone special for everyone. You can't look at color. You can't look at race. You can't look at any of those. If that person happens to be of a different race, then that's okay. And you have to really be able to trust God in that relationship because it's going to be some challenges. It's not going to be an easy street. Joan and I remember once we went down south and to Florida, and we sat in a restaurant for about 2 hours without being served.
Wow.
Mhm.
And now you
That
think you
sounds
think that
ridiculous.
you
Yeah.
think they missed us by
Oh
accident?
no, not a chance. They saw.
Huh?
I'm sure everybody saw y'all as soon as y'all came
Well,
in.
right. I mean, you kind of stick out, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, for sure,
Mhm.
for sure.
There's some intentionality behind all of it.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
Hmm.
something that if you leave out the formula, if you miss out the third person in the relationship, it is not going to be a successful relationship. It's regardless of the race. It's regardless of anything. It has to be led by God. and you have to follow his leading, and you have to walk in that light that he gives you. I believe that there's going to be a lot of successful interracial relationships because we've had a successful interracial relationship. If I die tomorrow, I found my purpose in life. I found my bride. I found my soulmate. And I believe that we will be together throughout all eternity. God's not going to give us divorce papers when we get there. We're going to
Hmm.
always be one. And I look forward to that. So for that person that may be considering it, it has to be led by God. Because if you're looking for a white woman, black man, or something like that, it's not going to work. But if you look into God to say, what is it that you have for me? And if that be it, just accept it, accept it and pray on it.
Well, and I think too for us, both of us, unbeknown to each other, we were telling God what we wanted in a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think we can't be afraid to ask God to give us what we want. I wanted a certain type of person.
Right.
I didn't specifically say, "Oh, I want a white man. Oh, I want a black man. Oh, I want a
Hmm.
um, I want this type of man in my life to be by my side throughout my life." And so I think when we do that, then we just can't be afraid then to maybe sometimes stand up to the outside influences when we do have a
Hmm.
relationship um, that might not be what everybody would expect or what everybody thinks it should be or thinks it should look like because they're not in the relationship. You and your spouse, or you and your boyfriend, or you and who you're just even, thinking about dating, you're the relationship, not the outside people.
Right.
And you need to be able
Hmm.
to say, okay, if I want this to work, it's you and me.
Right.
You and me, babe.
Hmm.
We got to do it with God's help, right? It's not you,
Hmm.
me, God, my mom, and your mom telling us, oh, act this way and do this. It's you and me and God, and we're making the path that He is leading us down, and we can't be afraid to go by His leading. We can't put our own
Amen.
mindset into it being, oh, I think it should be like this. No, we have to take the path that God leads us down, and we have to be willing to not stray from that path in order to have the relationship be a positive relationship.
Can
And
I,
Amen.
can I just say she just jarred a memory of mine. I remember
Oh, okay.
Joan and I, when we were first got married, my mother was my best friend. I was the youngest in my family. She already knows. She knows all my
mama's
stories.
boy, mama's
She already
boy,
knows my
mama's
story.
boy.
I'm a mama's boy.
Uh,
While we're married, I would be on my phone with my mother every night,
for hours.
and I would be laughing. I mean,
Talking about what?
totally. I would just be laughing, cracking up, talking about everything under. She says, "Who are you talking to?" And I look at Joan like, talking to my mother. And she says, nobody talks to their mother like that. And I'm talking for hours and hours. And this just went on for years and years.
Wow.
When I read in the Bible that a man, when he gets married, not a black man, not a white man, when a man gets married,
Hmm.
he leaves his home. He cleaves with his bride. They
Hmm.
become one. I called my mother and I said, Mom, I just learned that, all those deep, intimate conversations that we have. She says, yeah. I says, I'm gonna have to learn how to share that with Joan. Now, I'm not gonna be calling you every day.
Right, right. Yeah.
Wow.
I need to be having them with her,
Well,
not
don't
you
let
per
him fool
se.
you though. He still talked to her every day,
No, I didn't.
but
No.
not.
I mean, I
Hey,
wouldn't expect anything
that's
less.
that's awesome
I
too.
talk to my mom every day too. It's more of like a check-in, hey, how you doing
Oh,
type
yeah,
thing.
she was sick.
Not for
Yeah.
hours on end of the hee hee ha ha. If I didn't know better, I would think it was two women
Oh, yeah.
socializing over,
Oh my goodness.
a glass of water or something. It was hours every day. And then I'd
That's
be like, what'd
Dang.
you
crazy.
talk
That's
about? And then he'd be like, well, and I'd get like a 2-second conversation. So his conversations were being held with her and not with me. And then
But
again, yeah, he did learn.
I learned how to give you that. We sit on the couch for hours and talk after that.
Yeah, we sure do.
We did. But I had to learn how to
Glad
do
you
that.
learned.
I do want to ask you a quick question though, because I know you said like you had to educate your children on like Black history and things like that. Was that something that you guys had to do with each other, just like, especially coming from, you know, uh, being African and white, and then the culture and like the political situation and just all like those things like on the outside? Did you guys kind of have to educate each other on
Hmm.
like, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
where you were coming from, like things you struggle with as a black man, as a white woman, and stuff like that?
I think we,
Is that something like couples should do if they're like, interracial or
yeah, absolutely.
cross-cultural?
And I think we still do it. There are times that like I might see something on the news, and Dion will be like, that is just awful and blah blah blah. And I'll be like, am I missing, you know what I mean? And he'll be like, yes, in my culture, you don't do this. You don't act like this. You know what I mean? So even like
Hmm.
now, we still are educating each other on different things that may or may not be acceptable within our races, or how certain things are said, or how things are
Hmm.
done. So I think that um uh we still that's a never ending. That's part of the relationship.
Okay.
That's part about continuing to learn about each other. Because I will
Hmm.
say, by no
Mm.
means do I know everything there is to know about the guy sitting next to me, who's my
Okay.
spouse. The guy, this dude over there. There's no way I know everything about him, and there's no way he knows everything
Hmm.
about me, because I think every situation shows um your significant other a different aspect to you, a different side to you, a
Mm.
different way you think, and your wheels turn in your head. So the education on the different races doesn't stop. At least it hasn't for
Mm.
us. And I think that keeps a healthy line of communication open between the two of us, because we continue to, educate each other on, different things as we go.
And I think I give her more education, the
Mhm.
African American race, than she does, and that's to protect her.
Mm.
We work in the inner city.
Mm.
Interesting way of framing
We
that.
work in the inner
Yeah.
city, and I don't want her to
Hmm.
fall victim. You know, I mean, she walks down the street and she's a target oftentimes. You know,
Hmm.
Milwaukee is probably 90% black. And then you walk in there and you see somebody that don't look like and there's a lot of
Hmm.
scams and schemes. So I educate her a lot. I teach her, when you go to your
Mm.
car, have your keys out in your hand, ready to get in your car. You know,
Yeah.
don't
That's interesting.
at red lights. Don't look at the person, even if they bouncing and listening to music. You just look straight ahead like you watching the television. So I'm always educating her.
Yeah.
I'm always educating
Mm.
her,
Wow.
and my kids as well. I tell Ethan those stories are real. If the police stop you, keep your
Mm.
hands on the wheel. I had guns pulled on me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I almost lost my life. They had me out with guns all over me, bunch of police, black man in the wrong
Mm-mm.
neighborhood. You
Driving
know,
his white wife's car.
Mm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, so I educate.
Mhm.
Education, as far as that, I do more educating from the African American perspective than she does with me, and that's because of the times we're living in, and I feel like I'm protecting her. So
Mm.
yeah,
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow.
Any final questions?
Would you do it all over again if you could?
this is not going to end. What you mean doing all
Absolutely.
over again?
Absolutely.
If we had a time machine and it took you guys back to 1992, would you still pursue Dion,
Absolutely.
knowing what you know now?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and Dion, would your interview process change, knowing what you know now?
Not at all. Like I had told Joan before, if I'd known it was going to be this good, I would have done it a long time before then. I would have done it
Ooh,
before
that's
Mhm.
92.
nice.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, because I wasted my time in relationships.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
Mm.
so yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt I would do it all over again. God has blessed us. He brought me my best friend. He brought me a helpmate. He brought me a confidant, and I I would never want to give up that blessing, because it's
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say, I think that, especially, coming from your family backgrounds and stuff like that, I think God, is using your relationship as like a witness and a testimony to, your families and to,
Mhm.
the people you work with and, your communities. And everyone, even those people who, look down upon you guys because you're, interracial, I think God is specifically using, your relationship and your marriage
Yeah.
as, a witness and a
Yeah.
testimony to what God can do, despite, whatever the differences are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It hasn't always
it's
been
amazing.
roses. There's been a lot of thorns, but
Mm,
God's helped us cut those thorns so that we continue to
mhm,
have the blossom of the rose in our relationship and in our household and with our children. So
mm,
I think that,
amen.
again, it all comes down to having God as the main person in your relationship. Because, like I said earlier, without Him, there is no way we would be able to, we would not have been able to withstand anything.
No way.
Mm-mm. So without
Wow.
Him, we.
Yeah, I'm from the hood.
Yeah.
Very, you don't, y'all know different, Dion. I'm from
Yeah.
the hood, fellas. Young
Mhm.
lady,
Yeah.
he changes, and that's part of the three angels' messages too. The message that it's going to be a witness. Marriage is the biggest testimony of who God is. Two people come from
Mhm,
different parts of the world, two different cultures, two different extreme backgrounds, financially, educationally, everything. Just two different people to become one and to show His
mm,
image. And that's something that we really strive for. We pray every day and every night, like the Bible says, and we're
mm,
authentic. You've been in my house, you've been in our ministry, you've been in our lives, 20 some odd
Yes.
years, and God is just keep getting better. The light keeps getting brighter. So this is something beautiful. I would not hesitate to say that. Yeah, I would have done this over every day for the last 32 years. Instead of waiting those 2 years after when I met her, I'd have did it from day one. I would
mm.
never do more
Mm.
than if I known what I know now.
Wow.
I love
That's
that.
beautiful. Mike, would you mind closing us out in prayer?
Yes. And just before, because I know you said, all of this is because of, Jesus. Galatians 3:28 says, there's neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male nor female. We're all one in Christ Jesus. So I think that
Appreciate that.
verse just kind of says exactly, what you're saying, or you're saying exactly what Jesus, God is saying in the Bible. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
but anyway, let's all pray. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, I want to thank you again for, allowing us to, have this conversation. I want to thank you again for Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence, for them, just taking the time out of their busy lives to come and, just have this discussion, open up about their, personal lives, their relationships with each other, the Lord. I just want to ask that you continue to bless them and their marriage and their children and their grandchildren and their, just their families on both sides, the Lord, that you, continue to, have your presence there, and that you continue to use them as a witness of you and what, you can do between two people and between two families. How when you're at the center, you can bring people together and cultures together, despite of what the differences are, the Lord. So we're just thankful for that. Help us to just continue to know that it doesn't matter what our backgrounds are. It doesn't matter what people say or think, the Lord, that the only thing that matters is what you think of us, and we know that you love every one of us, the Lord, and you want us all to share that love with everyone. So just continue to be with us in our relationships and be with us as we depart from here. And just want to thank you again for this opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen.